Like many other films in this series, 1990's Dick Tracy seems to fall into that troubled Goldilocks zone of not being a bad film, but not being a great film either. So why is that the case? The film looked great, had star performances, and a big budget. What went wrong? Well, we're gonna find out, but to do so, let's take a look back at the history of the Dick Tracy character and the long development that took Tracy from the comic strip to the silver screen. The Dick Tracy comic was the creation of cartoonist Chester Gould and made its debut in October of 1931 for the Detroit Mirror. Inspired by the war against organized crime in the 1920s, the Tracy character spent most of his time battling hitmen, black marketers, and saving his girlfriend Tess from gangsters. The strip became a huge hit with readers and spawned comic books, radio shows, cartoons, and 4 movies. Even though Dick Tracy hit its peak of popularity in the late 1930s, the strip would continue to be published for over 40 years, and Gould always held out hope that his character would get the big-budget Hollywood treatment that he thought it always deserved. With the success of Richard Donner's Superman in 1978, Hollywood studios went on a spending spree, purchasing as many comic book properties as they could in an attempt to cash in on the renewed interest in superheroes. Paramount Pictures bought the film rights to Dick Tracy in 1980, and screenwriters Jim Cash and Jack Epps were hired to write an original screenplay for director John Landis, who was Paramount's first pick to make the film. Unfortunately, after the on-set accident on the Twilight Zone movie that left 3 people dead, Landis left the film and Dick Tracy was put in the turnaround, where action director Walter Hill was then hired to make it. Hill and producer Joel Silver hired Warren Beatty to star as Tracy, but Beatty disagreed with Walter Hill's vision of making a realistic, ultra-violent gangster film, instead favoring a slick film noir tribute to the original comic. With sets already being built, Hill and Beatty could not agree artistically, so Hill left the project before filming began, and the movie was scrapped by Paramount. Paramount eventually gave up the Dick Tracy movie rights, but they were immediately bought by Beatty, who brought the picture to Walt Disney Pictures, who greenlit the movie in 1988, hiring Beatty as the actor, director, and producer of the film. After nearly 10 years of development, Dick Tracy began filming in February of 1989, and quickly ran into budget overruns due to the film's special effects, makeup design, and Beatty's insistence on doing dozens of takes for each scene. Now I have to give Beatty and cinematographer Vittorio Storaro a lot of credit for creating such a vibrant, beautiful world to look at on screen. Dick Tracy was one of the last major films to use old-school camera effects before the industry switched over to digital, and the images are still amazing to watch. But there is one major drawback to using these effects. The drawback is that you can't move the camera. Early in pre-production, Beatty and Storaro decided to film nearly the whole movie in vignettes and master shots where the camera hardly moves. This artistic choice might give you some pretty pictures to look at, but it sucks the energy right out of the movie. To me, this has always been a knock on Beatty's directing style. He just never knows how to create momentum from scene to scene, no matter what movie he makes. Now, there was some controversy surrounding the casting of Madonna as Breathless Mahoney, mainly because she was dating Beatty at the time. But I have to say that I don't have many bad things to say about her performance in this film. Yeah, I know, she plays a singer who falls in love with Warren Beatty. What a stretch. But her acting was downright complex compared to Al Pacino's performance as Big Boy Capri. I mean, half of Pacino's performance was him just shouting Tracy over and over again, and he ended up getting an Oscar nomination for it. I mean, seriously, he did. If you want the moment where the Oscars officially jumped the shark, it was that. Huh, there were a lot of gangsters nominated that year. Anyway, to me the biggest problem with Dick Tracy wasn't the special effects or acting. It was its dull screenplay and massive plot holes in the third act. I mean, just look at him. Even if they are friends, why would the cops break Tracy out of jail? He's still accused of murder, and any arrest made while he's out would not stand in court. Why would Tracy want to search the roof of the Club Ritz when he first showed up? Why would a safe room have a skylight? And finally, even if Tracy heard a ship's horn, how did he know that Big Boy was going to the bridge? And for that matter, how did the kid and Breathless both know that they were going to the bridge? Luckily for Beatty, nobody in the audience seemed to notice these script problems. And do you know the reason why? A Tommy gun shootout will always solve your script problems.
That Dick Tracy drives you crazy, doesn't he?
I want Tracy dead!
Tracy, let's go! Good luck.
You have just said goodbye to oxygen.
Aren't you gonna frisk me?
Stupid cop.
Tracy?
Warren Beatty is Dick Tracy.
Dick Tracy was released on June 15th, 1990, and made a profit, but it was far from the box office hit that Disney was hoping for. What I blame for Dick Tracy's mediocre box office was the film's screenplay and the success of another superhero movie. Now, tell me if this reminds you of anything. Dick Tracy is a film whose hero is a detective that is afraid of commitment. He's up against a villain that takes over the city's mob, who ends up kidnapping the hero's girlfriend, falls to his death, and it all features a score by Danny Elfman. Huh, it sounds so familiar, but I just can't put my finger on it. Now, I'm not accusing anyone of plagiarism, because filming wrapped on Dick Tracy 1 month before Batman's release in 1989. This just has to be one of the unluckiest plot coincidences ever, and has to be a reason why the box office was so disappointing for Tracy. Ever since the film's release, there has been talk of a sequel, but a legal battle over the movie rights has kept it from being adapted again. Here's hoping that whoever gets another shot at Dick Tracy, that they will breathe some fresh life into the character and world that has so much cinematic potential. Thanks for watching.